Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're down on a nice little improved campground on the Yellowstone River, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the local area. If you guys remember the last video, we talked about the crazy mountains and the mountain men and stuff. Well, today we're going to be a little bit closer to home, and we're going to talk about Big Timber Creek, the Yellowstone River, and how it got its name. And the industry in the area. It used to be big fiber. This whole area is a real strong Norwegian area. My wife's Norwegian, about 78–80%. And the big sheep country, and we still have a lot of sheep, but we also have a lot of cattle. My wife and I are into fiber. She is more than me. She actually processes fiber and spins. She's got spinning wheels and drum carters, hand carters. We have alpacas, Angora goats, and Angora bunnies, and she makes product out of that. Kind of carrying on the tradition, the Norwegian tradition of Big Timber itself. Big Timber got its name when Lewis and Clark were coming through, and they needed a few more dugouts. They had some canoes that were in rough shape, and they got to this area, and we have a lot of giant cottonwoods along the river. And they explored, they set up camp, explored for a little bit, went up Big Timber Creek, and that's where they named it. Wow, Big Timber, we can make boats here. So they called Big Timber Creek, and contrary to popular belief, they didn't actually make their canoes here. They went just a little bit further down the road, a little bit halfway between Big Timber, a little more than halfway between Big Timber and Columbus, and they found the perfect trees. They set up camp down there just a few miles down the river and spent some time there and worked on canoes for their supplies, dugouts, stuff like that. And then as time went on, as settlers started coming in, and people loved the prairie here, lots of grass, started setting up a lot of sheep ranches here. Brought in all kinds of huge fiber industry, really supported textiles in the West. And then a short time later, cattle ranchers started coming in, and you guys have heard about all the battles back in the 1800s between the cattle ranchers and the sheep ranchers. And well, let me just say it's settled now, and we don't have gunfights anymore between the cattle ranchers and the fiber people, the sheep ranchers. So everybody's coexisting great. We have a lot of agriculture here. A whole lot of alfalfa, grass, everything that you need, fescue, orchard grass, mixes to support the livestock. And we have a lot of livestock. Me and my wife, we buy all of our beef local, grass-fed, grass-finished, fantastic product, some of the best in the world. You can go up north, a little bit further north from here, between here and the border, and we've even got the Wagyu beef, or however you pronounce it. We have some ranches there that have spectacular beef, but we do buy local. When you buy local from the local butcher, Montana Meats here in Big Timber, you get quality stuff. And they're not paying me to say this or anything. It's just what me and my wife do. And we live, 80 miles from Billings, 80 miles from Bozeman. We don't go to town very often, and you can get beef local. If you calculate your gas prices in there, you can get it very competitively priced. Premium, best on the planet beef for about the same price you can get at Costco, but you know where it came from. Fantastic area, a lot of history here. Like I said, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea. She did not marry who you think she married. But she was from this area. Well, she came through with them and guided and translated. They had fairly decent relations with the Native Americans, and they had guides and stuff. Just a real nice area. Continued to develop, but Montana didn't develop like the LA Basin, Manhattan, Staten Island, the Bay Area. It developed more towards agriculture and textiles, which it's still like that. We have beef ranches, all kinds, and now you're getting a little bit more imported animals. Like my wife and I, we have Hakaya alpacas and Angora goats, but still fiber. We have a lot of agriculture here, grain, for feedstock, for those that like grain finished beef. We have a lot of mining. We had a lot of logging here, selective logging, which was very friendly to the mountains and sustainable, but times changed, so that's slacked off quite a bit, and we lost a lot of our lumber mills. But we have a lot of mining here. Just south of me, about 20 miles, is a big mine up in the mountains, platinum and palladium. Real nice little mine. Probably, I mined for about, worked in mechanical, stationary equipment, fixed maintenance for about 40 years before I retired. And the two mines that I worked at that were probably the most environmentally friendly mines in North America, just fantastic. The mine I worked at, I'm not going to say any names, up until 2007. Then I went to Alaska and I worked at another mine up there, a gold mine in southeast, just north of Juneau. You can go research it. And that one was also one of the top two mines. Out of 9 different mines I helped develop, build, and run maintenance programs. That gold mine up in Alaska, also extremely clean, environmentally friendly. Nobody mines like America. We have the best, cleanest, most efficient mines in the world is America, and I'll stand by that. You can argue with me in the comments if you want, but you will lose. We have great mining in America. It isn't perfect, but it's not like it was even 50 years ago. So Montana, and especially south central Montana with the ranches and the mining and a little bit of logging. We still have a mill down here in Reed Point. Just a great place, a real hub of industry and textiles, beef, a lot of agriculture. It's a great place. I really like it here, and now you know where Big Timber got its name. When everybody was moving out west, and they settled here because there's a big flat, it's above floodplain, but it's a nice area to develop. They built a little town. The railroad went through. We've got grain silos. You see trains going through several times a day. It's one of the main corridors for moving product, and it just built into a nice town. Big Timber's got about 1,600 people. Sweetgrass County, one of the top biggest counties in Montana. I think it's the 7th biggest county in Montana. We got a lot going on here. It's a nice little hub for small town, local feeling industry. So we do have industry here. Struggle a little bit with wages, but up until recently, the cost of living here has been real good. As we get more people coming in to Sweetgrass County, it tends to hurt the economy for the local people, but that's a topic for another discussion. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, Big Timber is a great place to live. I love it here. It's beautiful. The winters can be harsh. The wind blows all the time. We can get, since we moved out to the ranch here about 10 years ago, we left town and went out. We've had several winters where we've been 35 below. And we've had 2 winters since I've been here that we've gotten just a little bit colder than 40 below. And the wind and snow, it can be rugged. But the spring, summer, and fall, that makes up for it. Fantastic place. So I'm going to hush up about that, and we're going to go for a little walk down on the bank of the Yellowstone, and we'll talk about the fish and what I plan on doing this summer on the river. So we will switch over to the other camera right now. Well, we're on the bank of the river now. Where we're at on the Yellowstone, as you guys know, it starts in the park and heads north for a ways till it gets down here in the prairie, and then it heads east and runs all the way. Eventually the waters go all the way to the Gulf of America. And from here downstream, as you get closer to Billings and to the eastern part of the state, the fishing tends to taper off a little bit. There's all kinds of fish. You got ling, all different types of trout, whitefish, But it starts to taper down. You get down further out of the mountains and further away, and the layout of the river tends to change a little bit. So I don't go east of where I'm standing right now from our house that often. I'll go down once in a while and fish some of the wide, slow areas of the river, but I prefer between here and Livingston, up through the Paradise Valley, right up to the north entrance of the park, the Roosevelt entrance. Lots of good fishing access there, and we'll go explore those this summer. But this is the part of the river runs right north of town. And if you go that way towards our place, it's actually about, probably between 3/4 and a mile from my front porch, and I really like that. This little campground we're at is really nice. There's no fees or anything. A couple of small campgrounds, but the access is fantastic. And it's got a boat ramp. A lot of people will put in upstream quite a ways, and then in their drift boats, and then they'll fly fish. We have a pretty good professional guided fly fishing trips you can do through here, and this is one of the areas people take out here more than they put in, because the fishing slowly doesn't get quite as good as the rest of the river. It's still good, but the better fishing is up north. So most people, or I should say west. So a lot of people will put in west of here and then fish their way down. Like when I kayak, if you go back, I have the world's most boring kayak video that I did last fall. And I started over towards Livingston, came this way. The river's a lot better that way, and a lot more access, and that's where people will put in. They'll usually drive up, put their boat in, and then have somebody come down here and drop their truck off with their boat trailer, and then they'll drift all day and fly fish. It's a lot of fun. I prefer fishing by myself, so I'm usually fishing out of my kayak, but they're very well maintained. The state does a good job taking care of them. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the boat ramp. And it goes all the way down, and the river's fairly low. It's come up a little bit in the last couple of weeks due to the snow starting to melt, but it won't really come up probably usually around June, when we get a real hard summer weather up in the mountains. Then we'll get a lot of melt, and all the runoff will come down, and the river will get really high. You can look, well, it doesn't show very good here, but you look where the boat ramp goes in, you look at the shore of the river, the bank, and high water. You can see water has affected the ground all the way up to here. So where I'm standing, almost every year the water will get up right about to where I'm standing. So you can see that's quite a bit. And when it gets that high, I put the kayak in the shop and I'm done. When it's that high, it's difficult to fish. You can still fish, but I don't like to work at it. I've been working on it and fishing hard for 40 plus years, and now I like the easy stuff. So the way the water is now, just about perfect. It could come up a little bit more, and it will. So I'm not dragging bottom. Several spots, if the water's too low, you'll have to portage your kayak. It'll just be so wide and shallow, you'll start dragging, then you got to hop out and drag it 100 yards. I don't like doing that, so I want the water to be a little higher. I could make it fairly easy from Livingston, which is about 35-40 miles to the west. I could go from there to here and not have to portage with the water level where it's at. There's a lot of people, friends of mine, that kayak a lot and fish out of their kayaks, and they're a lot younger and a lot more hardcore than I am. So I monitor the river real close, and I usually only throw my kayak in and fish when the water's perfect for me. So let's take one more look. That's looking east. That's the direction of travel for the water. And then we got the trees. I don't know if you can see them, but we got the Beartooth Mountains right down there. And then you come over, and now we're looking west. And Give you a little spoiler. I'm going to do a video this summer, sometime this summer, late spring, early summer, or right in the middle of summer. When the water comes up, you get a lot of islands, and I want to go get everything hooked up, grab my tent and everything, my kayak, float, put in somewhere west of here, float down, find a good island, stay below the high water mark, and we're going to do some stealth camping on an island in the middle of Montana, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do now is I want to go grab a bite to eat, have some tea, download this footage, work on it tonight. When we get up in the morning, I'm really hoping we have a great sunrise right over my shoulder. We'll go up here where my camp is set up. If you look, our sunrise should be right about here, and we'll get set up and we'll have a good crisp morning. Our nights and early mornings are still cool. It's not cold anymore. I haven't had to break ice off the water troughs in probably a week. We could still get some freezing, but the weather is getting fantastic. So I'm gonna get ready to pack it in for the evening, do some editing, and we'll see you in the morning. A little bit breezy out, so hopefully the wind ain't messing the microphone up too much. Let me get down here and see if I can get away from it. Boy, it's a fantastic morning. We've got ducks and geese everywhere on the river. Nice sunrise we had this morning. Cold, a little nippy once I got outside. Stayed good and warm in the camper. Everything up there is working good. A little bit windy, so I'm sure this audio is gonna be questionable. Got the heater blasting. Stayed nice and warm. And that's just about going to wrap it up. Like I said, just a real basic quick video about the area we live in. You can't live anywhere better than this, I tell you what. With the wildlife, the waterfowl, the rivers. Fantastic. And I think that is going to wrap this one up. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Learned a little bit about Big Timber, Sweetgrass County, and we will see you on the next one.